what I found very interesting was actually towards the end of the book when you talked about the sale of Strikeforce and what happened to you as a result of the sale. You became an alcoholic and you really went down a dark road. Why did it affect you so personally, the sale of Strikeforce?
Well, I mean, I can't pin my, drinking issues on the sale of Strikeforce. It's a genetic disease I've been fighting, my whole life. But that was certainly the pinnacle of, coming to a realization that I shouldn't be out drinking. But I think it's because I had fought so hard, and we had fought so hard, against the unbeatable adversary, the UFC. And, I had so much personally invested in the vision or the dream or the chance of Strikeforce. And it was my whole life. I mean, I didn't have another life. That's all that I did. This whole experience, this journey, it saved my life. So, boy, that was a dark day, man. Honestly, it was a very dark day when Strikeforce was sold.
And I feel like you kind of deep down hated me because in the book, you mentioned how you heard rumors about it, and then you went online and found this video of Dana White talking about it, which I presume is the video with me, right? So did you curse me out, or did you just okay, you just directed your curses to the other guy?
Yeah, no, I had a... Yeah, I mean, I live in a very special world, I'll be honest with you, that's outside of any other world most people live in. So when it broke into my special world, it just happened to be you. And I mean, to me, it was big business, and I've been in big business a long time. But that one definitely hurt the groin that morning.
Well, what do you mean by a special world?
I mean, I live in a special world, dude. I used to live on the streets. I've been in prison. Like I've had the worst life you could ever imagine, and now I'm living the best life you could ever imagine. I mean, I rarely leave my house unless a limo pulls up. It's just the world I live in is vastly different than what other people are living in, and it's a dream.
So how did you snap out of that? Because you talked about, I mean, there's a story that you tell, I won't give away too much about, kind of not forgetting that you had to pick up your daughter because you were so out of it, sleeping at a friend's house and whatnot. Like, how did you snap out of that funk?
I went to meetings. I got help. I reached out to a community of people that had an illness like me. And what's funny is I've been around it my whole life. I grew up in the system. I grew up with damaged people that all had issues. So, I always thought the barrier of me not being an alcoholic or having problems was not wrecking a car or killing somebody or doing something, drunk driving. Like I thought that was, if you weren't doing that, you were just fine. And, it turns out I had a problem for years, and I just, golfing and drinking all day just tipped it over the edge.
So you had come back from so much, and you reached the pinnacle. I mean, you're on Showtime, CBS, all that stuff. And now look, I see how happy you are. You talk about your family and everything going on around your life. Just because, and you're saying it's not just the sale of Strikeforce, but how did you allow yourself to go down that dark road when so much was going well for you just a couple of years ago?
Well, that's what the book was about, and why I think I needed to write it at that time. The image everybody knows of me is the image I've created, or the brand that people consume, and the brand that, I've represented in the cage all these years. It's been my creation, out of books that I read and out of things that I thought would be interesting, because I was trying to survive. And the book was a chance for me to tell the truth, not only about who I am, but also what I think people can accomplish, if they really want to. I mean, I literally lived on the streets and ate food out of trash cans. I have been at the bottom and I have been to the top. And I just think, there's a way, and I've been blessed to find it.
Last I checked, you still work for Showtime. You still call Strikeforce events. Does it feel different now? Because I didn't know that you reacted and you felt that strong. I mean, obviously I knew you felt that strongly about it, but I didn't know because you were still working Strikeforce events while I assume all this was going on. And you say, talking about the unconquerable beast that is the UFC. Zuffa owns Strikeforce, but you still work for Showtime. You still have the same bosses. But does it feel different? Do you not have that same sort of, that kind of passion that you did when you guys were the competition?
Well, it definitely feels different. You know, I mean, anytime a company's purchased or absorbed, you know, the culture goes through a big change. But, you know, especially for me, I mean, everything was Strikeforce. You know, every moment, everything we did was, you know, was for the opportunity, both Scott and I and everybody that was involved in it. So, yeah, it's changed, you know, the chi. But, you know, I love my job talking about fighting, and I love working for Showtime. It's been, you know, it's been the best job I've ever had.
Strikeforce is a very hot topic right now. A lot of people would like to see that just go away because they think it's an awkward relationship. They just canceled an event last. It was supposed to happen this past Saturday. We should be talking about Gilbert Melendez and Pat Healy. What do you think should happen to Strikeforce? Obviously, there are contracts involved, options and whatnot. But as someone so deeply invested in the Strikeforce brand, what do you think should happen to it?
Well, I mean, you know, in a perfect world, they should live on, and you know, all the sweat and tears and soul we put into it should, you know, give value to somewhere else. In the world of big business, it's probably going to get wrapped up, rolled up, and disappear. You know, like many of the other brands in this industry that were used to consolidate, you know, and build another brand. It, you know, sadly, it's just business. I don't think, you know, it's going to live on.
Does it hurt you? Does it bother you to see what it has become?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, at one point, Strikeforce was a competing organism, was number two. I mean, you know, we did it in such a quick period of time, and you know, the intention was right. You know, the sport came together to create Strikeforce, and Scott provided the opportunity, and I had a few years left to, you know, throw in the cage, but it'll never happen again. You know, that moment is gone. I think that's the toughest thing for me to accept, is that moment is gone.
At this point, would you like to see it go away, like right now?
No, no, because you know, Strikeforce is alive. You know, it has a great soul, and it's just that they've been picking the soul out of it and taking the talent away from it, and you know, now it's a shell. It could definitely be rebuilt. I mean, Strikeforce was amazing. The idea of it is still, you know, it still has value, but you know, the way it's being treated, you know, it just they're plucking all the value out of it.
Perhaps you can give us insight on this, but as far as what we know, Showtime didn't want to air the event once Gilbert was out. They didn't think it was worthy enough because of how much they're paying and, you know, their audience and whatnot. It's not the level of you know, competition that they want to present on their channel. Do you think that was the right choice? And then subsequently, Zuffa pulling the plug on the entire event. Well, what's your take on how all that unfolded last week?
I mean, the hardest part for me was I started working and I didn't get to finish. But it's big business, you know. Showtime, they're in the business of ratings and growing a product and growing their network. And the UFC hasn't been supporting that, you know. And they've put out some demands that are just, you know, they haven't been amendable. So I think the relationship is frayed. I don't know who loses out, you know, except for the fans when they cancel a show like this. But I think it's a telling example of what's going to happen in our future. You know, Gilbert's the star. If we can't have the star, Showtime doesn't want to play.
Do you feel for guys like Gilbert, Luke Rockhold, guys like that who sort of openly say that they would like to fight in the UFC and fight that kind of competition but can't because of some sort of agreement between Showtime and Zuffa? You know, you put yourself in their shoes when you were trying to fight to be a free agent and you wanted out of your contract, and they may want out of their contract, but they can't. They simply can't go over there. Do you feel for those guys?
Yeah, I feel for anybody who can't, you know, work competitively in an industry, you know, or who's tied up, you know, in an industry that's, you know, predetermined. There's, you know, their star factor. So, yeah, I mean, but hey, that's why I'm happy to be retired, man. This is a sport I don't want to be playing in it, you know, at this time.
Do you still like MMA as much as you once did maybe a few years ago?
I love MMA. Absolutely love it. But for me, I love the idea of it. And that is, you learn to defend yourself. You get in the best shape of your life. You bring a community together and you fight for a common goal. That's, to me, what MMA was and what I continue to support as being MMA.